So then, the final challenge in Super Mario Odyssey is about to begin, and hopefully we can able to get ourselves the final 3 of those power moons apparently. So, hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mario here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time we have managed to able to gather all of the power moons in the forms of the dark side, and especially noticeable we actually obtained the last power moon in the forms of the Mushroom Kingdom. So today for this episode is going to be the grand, well, I won't say this is going to be a grand finale of this game's Let's Play just yet though, because obviously aside from those little extra videos that we can show off, it's the fact that, well, today, we're about to begin the final mission in the whole entire game in Super Mario Odyssey before we move on to the forms of the Luigi's Blue World of all sorts, and especially noticeable with the VR support thing, which either way, we'll save the VR thing for last because, well, you might be familiar with. But anyways though, if you're familiar with the forms of the previous 3D Mario games, specifically with the actual special stages or something like that, or most notably the last challenge levels or anything like that. Like, for instance, Galaxy 2 actually has, like, well, specifically the original game does have the forms of the last stage throughout, but it's more accurately on the easier side of things. Whilst the forms of Galaxy 2 manage to retain Grandmaster Galaxy if you obtain all of the green stars throughout, and then able to actually giving you the opportunity to do the ultimate test, and if you grab all of the power stars, like 241 power stars, all of the comet medals, and max your star bits count up to 9,999 star bits on your Toad Bank account, so that way it will able to actually give you an opportunity to play the Perfect Run mission, which is essentially the last mission in the whole entire game. And also in Super Mario 3D Land, well, there is a special world 8-crown, which in order to actually get that, basically you have to be able to get all of the golden flagpoles, all of the star medals, and finishing both and finish all of the levels with both Mario and Luigi, and I think that's about it to able to actually get to that particular last level in the whole entire game. And also in Super Mario 3D World, there's quite a lot of new forms of Super Mario 3D World has to offer. Is that, well, still you need to able to get all the golden flagpoles, but in addition with the actual golden flagpoles, you also need to, obviously we need to able to actually gather ourselves any single of those green stars, as well as the forms of the actual stamps here and there as well. Now I think that's about it when it comes to unlocking methods and all that stuff. But in order to actually get to the forms of the darker side is the fact that we need to get up to about, let's just say, 500 power moons, and I think that's as far as we can go for that point. So, and at least even then though, for our retrospective, when it comes to the toughest final levels in any of the 3D Mario games, well, to be fair, in the forms of Super Mario Galaxy 2 The Perfect Run, at least I did die quite a few times, most notably with specifically 11 times on my own time, especially noticeable with the actual Let's Play of the game. And in 3D Land, I don't have that much trouble with it at all, although the only time it makes some of these segments a little bit tricky is the fact that with, you know, just trying to able to actually complete it without some sort of power-ups or anything like that. But nothing compares to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 3D World, the most toughest stage in the whole entire game in 3D World, which is of course Champions Road, which you know exactly how that level felt. For the actual darker side, in this case the forms the last mission in the whole entire game, which is actually known as Long Journey's End, which either way, basically much like the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 3D, you know, Super Mario Galaxy 2, you know, the forms of Grandmaster Galaxy, and as well as, you know, World 8, or Special World 8-Crown, and especially noticeable with Champions Road, essentially, is that you're going to go through a serious amount of those difficult, challenging obstacles along the way, while at the same time, much like the forms of how it does here on the forms of Super Mario Galaxy 2 Grandmaster Galaxy, is the fact that depends on what section you're in, you're able to actually get yourselves a different music in the background, such as like the actual beginning portion. It starts off with familiar tune. For those of you able to actually notice by this, is that it obviously starts off with specifically Cascade Kingdom, and after that's been done, the actual music in the background was actually heavily borrowed from the Sand Kingdom. Now later on though, when it comes to a few sections later, we're surely able to actually bring into ourselves at this one point or another, so... And by the way, because if you're probably wondering, I just keep on bumping around on that particular block right there, there is a possible way you can able to perform some tons of shortcuts for this point right there, but there's actually that one particular shortcut I highly recommend it to you guys for those who have been having some sort of a struggle time with this game so far, well, in this case in this particular stage, and that was the fact that, well, we're not going to spoil anything just yet though, because, well, we haven't got to that yet, so... Anyways though, so I'll probably point things out with the actual different sections in between, you know, different parts of this stage, so hopefully I should able to actually point things out when it comes to, like, different sections of the forms of the actual, the darker side. So either way, hopefully things can get a little bit more relative, and it's only one mission only, rather than just the forms of multiple, missions as a result of this matter though, because obviously this is the last, mission in the whole entire game. Unless if you really want to go after the forms of the true reward, if you max out your power moons count. So, but even then, I will point things out whenever we get to it. So, oh, that was a little bit too late for that part. So, we'll just have to try this again. Okay, if you probably noticed, there's actually another jump cut right there, because I simply managed to spend about 20 minutes so far, and I keep on failing in the process because, well, for the most part, I wasn't paying that much attention. And also, that, you know, on the first part right there, that it starts off with, specifically these whole bunch of group of Goombas, as you can see, and also the actual familiar UFO that we've already saw ever since in Wooded Kingdom, as well as Bowser's Kingdom, essentially. If you manage to able to actually get yourselves like 2 hits on that particular UFO contraption, basically if you manage to kill it, well, basically it will reward you to able to get yourselves a life up heart. So that's the reason why I managed to do this off screen, by the way, because I really can't afford to able to waste time on the forms of the actual beating up the actual UFO sorcerer and stuff like that. And as a result of this kind of stuff though, it makes it a little bit easier for first grinds. Well, at least for the most part anyway though. So luckily though, with the actual stage like this, that you can able to actually get yourselves, you know, a free heart back in case if you're able to actually mess up at one point. And yes, just like the forms of how it does it in the Perfect Run mission in Super Mario Galaxy 2, Special World 8-Crown in Super Mario 3D Land, I almost said 3D World for a moment ago. But, and also similar, and also speaking of 3D World, with Champions Road, there aren't any checkpoints around here. So all you have to do is like one attempt to able to make your way for this point, because if you somehow accidentally died, well, once again you have to restart for the whole particular beginning portion of the level all over again. So, hopefully though, when it comes to this particular level like this, I don't think that particular level doesn't take me that long to get there, but it's just that the amount of depth and frustration is going to be involved around. I would say that this might not exactly be the hardest mission of the bunch, or in this case the forms of the hardest of the actual special challenges or anything like that, or in this case the final challenge missions or something like that. No, that honor goes to the forms of Champions Road from, of course, from Super Mario 3D World, because that level is like way too much, I'm telling you, especially because, well, the good thing about this level though, as you can see right there, is that obviously you're able to actually just manage to get yourselves, I would say you get like 2 of those, or actually 3 actually, because, well, we'll point things out whenever we get to it, because we obviously already mentioned about one thing in the uniforms of the beginning portion of this particular stage, and also the uniforms of how to factor until later on though, in the actual Yoshi section. In fact, whenever I managed the first time playing this level on my own time, when this game first released, I simply able to actually could not pass the actual Yoshi section. So, but however though, in my own time, I managed to perform the actual frog glitch to able to actually just simply able to actually skip the whole entire level. Most notably because I just wanted able to actually complete the game for myself, and also during the forms of that specific time, I'm pretty sure that particular frog glitch just somehow removed during the forms of the actual patch or something, or maybe it's still possible with the actual current patches or anything like that. But luckily though, we actually come across into another skillful glitch that we can able to perform, but then we'll able to point things out whenever we get to the forms of the later sections. So, but anyways though, not much else around here aside from able to actually just to realize that we now on to the next section, as you can see right there, and the actual music changes now to the forms of the Wooded Kingdom. So, to make it a little bit obvious with the actual tone of this music, as well as the actual flower rows that we need to keep up. So, the only thing about this though is the fact that you need to be able to actually keep yourself steady when it comes to like controlling Yoshi on this section, because sometimes though, controlling Yoshi might be a little bit too fast for my liking. But if you go onto the left right here, we actually come across into those Spanks once again, and he'll try to tell you about the fact that the only kingdom he has not able to actually fit into, and the ones you need to answer for is the Mushroom Kingdom, because he's the only one who never experienced that particular kingdom. So, at least unlike for the majority of the kingdoms that this game offers us to. So, however though, I will say is the fact that this particular stage is super generous when it comes to giving you a whole bunch of coins. So as a result of this kind of stuff though, if you really want to go after the remaining of those Power Moons, which will be later on for shopping focus and stuff like that, and that way it makes it a little bit of an opportunity to able to do so. There's also another trick you can able to perform, like specifically skipping the entire portion of this particular stage like this, but however I will say it's really darn difficult to perform, because you have to be dead on with the actual spot, not to get caught by the actual scarecrow. In fact, some people seem to do that before, but I've never done it on my own life, and I think I never actually get past this part whenever I first time playing the game. So as a result of this kind of stuff though, there's not much else to really say about this here. So anywho though, and I promise you guys that we will save the actual the best shortcuts until for later, because well, depends on how hard the stage can be sometimes. This means I have to do a multitude of jump cuts every time whenever I manage to able to fail several times in a level. So, and I think this might be actually be the last time we're going to be dealing with the actual Cappy-less section, because other than that, we can just simply use Cappy for almost everything. So either way, relatively speaking, I would say this is not the hardest special level in the whole entire game in my opinion. Well, the only troublesome at points is the fact that how much well you're performing tricks and stuff, so you probably get the idea. So first, let's show off the actual sections first. So either way, if you couldn't tell already, that I managed to able to actually just manage to get more coins than ever will be, because the majority of those sections rather is actually pretty tricky if you're not paying attention to that kinds of stuff. So that's why, because of how the fact that my coins count is actually a little bit higher, because well, then again, if I die multiple times on that particular level like this, hopefully it's about time to able to actually show off the actual shortcut I was trying to show you. But either way, in this next part right there is the fact that we need to use that little, I can't remember what's its name, I have to be honest here, because I know for the fact that it's been such a long while since we managed to able to explore through the Lost Kingdom to begin with, but we'll come across into that at some point during the forms of like the next few days. So, in this next part, we need to do some sort of a timing section, because in order to actually go from one fork to another, we need to carefully try to flick ourselves all the way to the next fork to another. So, at least that part is pretty easy. But it all comes to the forms of the difficult aspect of this particular world, and that is, of course, this particular section. And as a result, you know, with the actual two sections that we've already been into from before, that music was heavily borrowed from the forms of, let's just say, the Lost Kingdom, Luncheon Kingdom, and now this music was heavily borrowed from Bowser's Kingdom. So, but in this part right there is the fact that we need to avoid a lot of those porcupines, or is essentially the forms of those hedgehogs, as you can see right there. And the only trickiest part about this is the fact that if you do accidentally manage to activate the actual beam of the actual laser or something, well, it'll spread out even more, and then I think you're able to actually create a lot more lasers than ever before. So, definitely a lot more trickier than the forms of how it does it from before. I will say though, this is by far the hardest part of the level, because in order to actually do it successfully, as you can see, we actually come across into the forms of the actual poker enemy ever since during the forms of Bowser's Kingdom. So what's the difficult part about this level? well, you need to able to do a lot of precise timing, because if you time at the wrong time of poking at the wall, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the level. So, yeah, not that fun. Okay, so let's try this again, and hopefully I can able to pass this part. Well, at least I'm hoping so anyway, though. So yeah, as I said before, it's all about timing, because if you don't able to actually poke at the wall at the right time, this means is that you have to deal with a lot of trial and error. And also, like I said before, if you screw up at least 1 point on that particular section, if you couldn't tell, well, you need to go for the entire level all over again if you keep screwing things up. So, I will say that this part is easily the hardest part about this stage. Whilst, I actually, whenever I managed to able to play this level on my own time at long last, I actually think that this world, or this particular mission, wasn't all that hard when it comes to some sections. But, there's one particular section I always having trouble with, which is of course, this section. Because, oh my god, the timing on the actual poker, you know, the woodpecker enemy is a little bit more strict for my liking. So, if you couldn't tell already, because this is actually a post-commentary and stuff like that for this particular point. But, hopefully though, things can get a little bit more relevant until this first day, because obviously, son of a... Oh, I hate this part! Jesus Christ. Alrighty then, another attempt later, so... God, anyway. Alright, so let's just go ahead and... Oh, we don't want to do that just yet though, because obviously we still need to able to save some time, and hopefully we should able to actually pass this part without any sort of like timing issues or anything like that. So come on. No! Oh! Ugh. I hate this freaking section! Alright, back again. Hopefully we could able to pass this part. I think the only strategy for this is the fact that I highly recommend you don't hold it for a long period of time, because otherwise, if you somehow hold it for a long period of time with that specific flicking, well, this means about the fact that with the actual angle and all that stuff, this means your angle will go a little bit far off from it, so definitely a little bit more of a thing you have to get used to. Oh, I'm not exactly ready for this yet. Okay, come on, there we go, that's more like it, that's way more better. Oh, that's way more better. Okay, hopefully we would do it just right. Oh, finally. Now we got those parts out of the way though, and now let's move on to the next section, which appears to be the Donkey Kong 8-bit section. So either way, I think this will be the final time, well, until later on anyway though, this will be the last time we're going to be seeing the 8-bit section once in a while, because after this has been done, well, we are essentially going to be conclude with every single mission in Super Mario Odyssey. So, once again, just like in New Donk City, is that we need to kick Donkey Kong's butt by simply able to actually bash into him for about 4 blocks each time. So, and after when you're done with that, you access the pipe you go, and in that way we're able to actually realize we got onto the forms of the final section of this entire world. Until the actual congratulations thing or something like that. So, yeah, let's jump right in and see what we find out. But I somehow failed on that final section somehow, so that's probably my fault. But as soon as I managed to able to actually fail quite a few times, and also I just managed to once again get myself a life up heart during in some markets or some shops out there. There's also a special trick you can be able to perform on this section, because if you go somewhere near down below from the actual tornadoes like this, you can able to actually just manage to able to shake the actual Pro Controller as much as you want until you're able to actually get yourselves a little bit of a high distance between the actual, I can't remember what this character's name, I do apologize for that, because I know for the fact that it's been such a quite few weeks. So as a result for this kinds of stuff though, if you manage to perform like this as well as you can able to actually skip the whole entire section, which is specifically the fork flicking section, but it's also the fact that you can able to actually skip not 1 but 3 different sections. So very nice little welcoming shortcuts as far as I'm aware. But for those of you able to try to do speedrun tactics like I do, well, basically I recommend you do so. So this is the final part of the darker side, and now it's the forms of taking control of Bowser again. But this time around though, we don't have Princess Peach with us. So, but either way though, in this particular final part, we basically take control of Bowser for the second time, as I said before. And once again, you get yourselves your double the amount of health. But what makes this a little bit tricky and difficult compared to the forms of how it does it in the Moon Kingdom escape sequence is that the actual boulders might actually decide to hit you multiple times. But if you manage to able to do like I do, like if you manage to try to go ahead and move forward a bit, recommend you able to turn back in a quicker amount of time until you're able to actually destroy the actual rolling boulders or these rolling rocks. So definitely a little bit trickier than the forms of how it does it in the Moon Kingdom for sure. But honestly, this particular part wasn't all that hard. Although the only time I occasionally got myself screwed over is actually at the very beginning portion of that section. But if you somehow bypass for that particular section, well, we actually come across into the forms of the ending portion of the actual darker side. So even then, if we get into the forms of the actual electrical line and stuff, and this way we can able to actually come across into this highest height of all. And as you can see, we actually come across into another electrical wire. This means we actually get ourselves into, you remember the forms of the Super Mario 3D Land as well as 3D World. If you manage to come across into the ending portion of that particular stage, it actually grants you the forms of the thank you message. Whilst this game does still has the forms of a thank you message, but what's cool about this is that you can actually just manage to able to take control of the actual thank you message, which is pretty cool, similar to the forms of the clear pipes in Super Mario 3D World, in, you know, the 3D World version. So, but either way, if you manage to able to throw Cappy onto the Scarecrow, you can able to see the thank you message on a better view. So, but anyways, in this last part right there, basically we need to take control of those frogs as capturing stuff. So, yeah, there's not much else to really say about this here. We've come a long way, you and me. Yes, of course, Cappy, we've come for a long way. We've seen a bunch of different kingdoms. Yep, ranging from, you know, cool Metro Kingdom, and, you know, I mean, sure, we got shut down and stuff along the way, most notably with, you know, Bowser destroys our Odyssey twice, so that should be a little bit more expected for some other interruption journeys and stuff, Cappy. So anyways, in this last part, we need to use the Froggy, or the actual frog capture, just to get ourselves a little bit more of a spaced momentum. That way you can able to climb all the way up to the tallest tower of all of them all. And basically, the final reward we can get is, the trip was really amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mario. I've been an honor walking a mile on your head. And if you reach at the very top of that particular tower, we get ourselves the forms of the final multi-moon in the whole entire game. And also, this is the last time we're going to be seeing the actual animations such as this. Because of this, though, we got all of the major power moons in the whole entire game. So yes, we have managed to accomplish that. And also, in addition with that specific reward, you also get ourselves, where in the world am I? Yes, apparently we got ourselves the Invincibility Hat, which actually makes a little bit of a cool reference to the forms of Super Mario 64 power-up. Well, the only difference is the fact that you don't see some parts of the actual flickeriness or anything like that. So, 880 power moons. So, we naturally got ourselves all 880 power moons. In addition with that, our balloon thing on the actual Odyssey itself is now in gold. In addition with that, we actually come across into our new portrait, which appears to be Bowser's portrait, which is going to be once again going to take place in the Wedding Hall in the forms of the Moon Kingdom. So, sounds familiar to you? Well, if you manage to able to realize about ever since in Super Mario Galaxy, as well as Super Mario Galaxy 2, that if you grab like 120 of those power stars in between these two games, basically you can able to actually challenge Bowser once again, but just with the forms of able to actually defeating him, simply gives you a different ending if you manage to able to accomplish that specific stuff. And also same applies with, you know, with the additional unlockables and stuff. Like, for instance, in Super Mario Galaxy 1, if you manage to get all 120 power stars as Mario, you're able to actually have, you would able to unlock Luigi as a playable character, and you have to replay that game again. And if you manage to collect all 120 of these power stars as Luigi, you would unlock the forms of the special level, which appears to be the Grand Finale Galaxy, which is, you know, the Star Festival by going to the actual Star Festival itself and grabbing these purple coins in the process too. So even then, it's a relatively easy mission as far as I'm most likely concerned about this specific stuff. And also another thing is that in Super Mario Galaxy 2, that if you manage to grab all 120 of those power stars, you would able to actually access to the forms of, well, let's just say the second half of the game by going through collecting those green stars in each world. And if you manage to obtain 240 power stars, you're able to access to the true final level in that game, which is of course Grandmaster Galaxy. And then on Super Mario 3D Land is that when you complete all of the regular levels, including the special world, basically you get yourselves the forms of the actual, you have to replay through, you know, World 8, Bowser's Castle, and then you get yourselves a special photo of, specifically Princess Peach and these, 3 toads, transforming into themselves into a Tanuki forms. And I don't think that's pretty much noticeable on the forms of Super Mario 3D World, because in 3D World, you can just simply beat Bowser once, and that's all there is to know. However, in Super Mario Odyssey, though, as you can see, we actually come across into Bowser final boss yet again, but this time around, the actual environment is actually a little bit more, reddish look. Well, in terms of the actual background, as you can see right there. Although the actual cutscene plays out exactly the same as the forms of the first time around, so relatively speaking, it plays pretty much identical, but the only major differences between the final Bowser, the normal final Bowser fight, compared to the forms of the extra version, as you can see right there, which basically, this battle is pretty much plays out exactly the same battle as the forms of how it does it on the first time around, but a lot harder this time around, because for one thing, he has like multiple hit points this time around though, when it comes to like punching him and stuff. But the only obviously noticeable difference is of course the actual different background. It depends on what phase you're in. You start off with red of course, but until when it gets to the point until the second phase, as you can clearly see on screen, the actual background is now changed into orange. So things relatively speaking is the fact that it's almost kind of like a actual rainbow effect or something like that. But the only target I found is a little bit annoying to dodge is of course the actual flamethrowers, because I swear to God, I managed to able to try to jump in exactly at the right time, but sometimes I always keep on failing for those particular jumps like this. But hopefully though, we're not going to able to give up on this yet though, because you know, we actually come close to the end guys. So even then, aside from extra features and all that stuff, specifically the actual Bloom World update, which, you know, did recently came out for about almost like 2 years ago, actually. Well, until when it gets to like 2020 and stuff. So, and hopefully though, by the end of this Let's Play, we'll show off the virtual reality thing for last, because, you know, we just feel like we're gonna show that off at least. So, now after that, there's the final section, and the actual background is now in yellow instead of orange and red. So, but you know, you get the idea. But like always though, the third and final phase is always the hardest part about this fight, because as a result of this kinds of stuff though, specifically when if you try to get yourselves the actual boxing gloves with the actual hat and stuff, well, unfortunately for me though, is the fact that I keep on failing a lot, because, well, it's way too, I don't know, I just forget about myself. Anyways, I just died right there. Oh, shoot. I'll meet you guys back. Alright, quick go right there, because, it's nothing to do with the forms of the checkpoint system, because unlike in the, you know, the first time you fight against with the final boss, the actual extra final boss does not have any checkpoints, because every time you're able to die on any point, specifically the actual fight, including once again the escape sequence, you have to go all the way back to the very beginning portion of that particular portrait. And once again, just like the forms of how it does it on the boss rematch encounters in the forms of the Mushroom Kingdom, basically you're able to actually get kicked out of the actual portrait. So, you know, just like the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 64 all over again. But, it's just way too hard, man. I mean, I can honestly believe how much difficult this is compared to the forms of the first final boss of this particular, well, at least for the first time though, but either way, I do apologize for the actual commentary and all that stuff, but hopefully though, when we get to the forms of Luigi's Bloom World, we can able to actually get into that specific point on this first day. But for the majority of the time for Luigi's Bloom World, I think the main focus is going to be on sometime in November, specifically when it comes to like when it gets like, you know, new sets of announcements or anything like that is going to happen. But either way though, we can able to actually say for sure. So I think that's as far as we can say about this point. Well, I was originally trying to able to actually equip the invincibility hat, but I will say it is probably the most least appealing when it comes to the forms of the actual costumes of this game. Don't get me wrong, it is cool and funny at first, but the only problem with the invincibility hat is the fact that you can't see where you're going aside from your drop shadow. And also, when it comes to like doing, if you're trying to deal with the actual platforming and all that, well, sometimes though you have to able to actually take a risk of any sort. So yeah, I'm not gonna able to equip that though because, well, it is pretty cool though, don't get me wrong, it's just that it's not my costume of choice, unlike the forms of how it does it on the most nostalgic thing, which is of course the Super Mario 64 costume and stuff. So, you know, you probably get the idea, and that's as far as we can able to say about it. So, is he almost down yet? Oh, just almost down. Okay, so hopefully with a few jumps left, and, you know, we're able to finish him off just like so. And then Bowser will simply transform back into its normal state of him, so... And the actual scenes plays out exactly like how it did on the first time around, so... I guess there's no point for able to actually be quiet and all that stuff, because, well, you know, you guys should already know about this, is ever since during the forms of the very end of 2018. So basically, because you go through exactly the same section, because, you know, if you think this is over, well, the entire thing is gonna collapse. So, yeah, you probably get the idea for that solution. And once again, we're able to actually transforming, or in this case, capture Bowser for the final time for the sake of this Let's Play. And hopefully, though, we can able to get out of here. So, and hopefully, though, we're able to actually conclude with the actual, the game itself. Well, aside from the actual extra things, like specifically Luigi's Bloom World, which, again, it will happen most likely in November. And until around that time, we're able to show off the final thing, which is, of course, the actual virtual reality thing. So, well, at least if you're trying to access to the Nintendo Labo, which I still don't have, because, well, you know, it's a bit of a waste of money, I feel like. And also because I'm just not very good at crafting stuff. Well, I used to back in the day, but no longer going to be able to, crafting and stuff, but that's probably just me. Seriously, whenever the first time I thought about this idea, I was so shocked about this, because either way, well, it just blows my mind every time I see that, which is pretty cool though, because you get able to take control of Bowser in a 3D Mario game for the first time, technically. But it only happens in, so far, 2 parts specifically, which there are obviously the escape sequence, and also one section in the darker side. So, now, I think, relatively speaking, we are done with every single kingdom. So, no, yeah, because basically, all it needs now is just basically we can show off the actual fun time we had with Luigi's Bloom World, and also the final thing is, of course, the virtual reality thing. So, either way, but I'm not exactly going to able to actually do more on Super Mario Odyssey, well, aside from this first day. But until around that time, I'll be doing one video particularly for Luigi's Bloom World on this first day. And as for the rest though, you know, I'm saving up for November and doing at some point. Because, you know, aside from able to actually just let Sonic needs to get back into Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, which, at this point in time, he's not going to be focusing on the forms of the secret bosses and all that stuff. And especially notable with the Hades Cup in the Olympus Coliseum and stuff. So, this could take a lot of work for Sonic though, because either way though, that he might actually get enough time for able to actually just get back into that game, but hopefully that could be a little bit more relative and all that stuff. So aside from everything else though, there's not much else I could really say, apart from the fact that we'd like to talk about some more information we'd like to discuss, but then again, we'll want to save that up until whenever I start to be doing Luigi's Bloom World challenges and all that stuff. Even though it might be pretty optional though, but I'm actually going to be doing that for the sake of the forms of for each kingdoms and stuff like that. So, yeah, you probably get the idea for that specific solutions here, because, you know, I just had a real blast at it. So either way though, aside from everything else though, there's also the amiibo of this game, which I honestly rarely use. Well, apart from the fact that because every now and then now since I've stopped able to actually buying amiibos, well, the only time I actually buy amiibos recently is, of course, the Wolf-Link amiibo to able to access to the actual exclusive dungeon on the, specifically Twilight Princess HD, so either way. But, I'm not exactly ready for that yet, because I still need to get back onto Link's Awakening Remake on the Switch, and especially noticeable with, specifically getting things started with, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker on the GameCube first, and, also same applies for the continuation of, you know, specifically The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the original N64, so... But I still got a whole ways to go from this point, guys. But even then, it might actually take me a lot of time to work with. So, anyways, so just like before, we need to, you know, just keep on smashing the forms of that particular Moon Rock. Now, after when you've done so already, let's get the heck out of here with this specifically the escape sequence. And we are out of the forms of that particular collapsing place. So... And I feel like watching the forms of that particular ending scene right there, because I will say, I actually really enjoyed this scene, because not only because it's way more funny than it used to be, but it's also that, well, depends on what costumes you're going to be wearing, you know, it just always makes it so much more enjoyable to watch, including the actual mods as well, which I think that has existence now. Even though I will admit, though, is the fact that the actual expressions on Super Mario 64 doesn't look that nearly as expressive as all the other costumes, including the invincibility hats and stuff, because I'm pretty sure enough the invincibility hat doesn't do that much facial expressions and all that stuff, but I'm fine and I'm done with, because either way, I just really enjoy this scene so much, because either way, I was assuming if Mario were able to propose Peach for forever now, but apparently the Bowser just somehow interrupts each other, so yeah, I just really like that, so, and yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. Seriously, I just really love the actual, the theme song that has been used in this sequence. I think it was actually called, Breaking the Lead, or Break the Lead, I should probably point things out, but I just haven't really looked upon this particular music all that much compared to, the Jump Up Superstar. The Jump Up Superstar was actually the best tune to me, though, anyway. I can listen to that all day on my iTunes, and especially noticeable with, YouTube videos aside, and all the other stuff, so I think you should probably be able to notice for that point. So, yeah, let's get my final thoughts of Super Mario Odyssey before we're able to actually get into the forms of Luigi's Bloom World, especially noticeable with the virtual reality thing for Nintendo Labo. I think this is easily my favorite Nintendo Switch game I've ever played, alongside with the forms of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for its multiplayer department, as well as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and also the forms of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In fact, between both this and Breath of the Wild, they are perfect for the Nintendo Switch owners, because I'm sure enough that after all, Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be on its way on the Nintendo Switch at some point, and I'm really hoping that the sequel to Mario Odyssey will happen, but after all, Nintendo Direct for recently just never saw the light of able to actually release that, so which is kind of sad though, but I'm hoping that'll be the case though, because I really enjoy this game so much. In fact, it was actually, in my opinion, one of my favorite Nintendo Switch games. It is, in this case, #1 favorite, because of the forms of the actual visuals looked absolutely outstanding, especially because this is only on 60 frames per second and all that stuff, which I appreciated. And also, the majority of the kingdoms looks absolutely, way more enjoyable to able to explore. Well, apart from the actual Cloud Kingdom, because it's all just pure white and all that stuff. But apart from that side of things, though, the story is, well, to be expected for any of the Mario games. Mario needs to save Princess Peach by the evil clutches of Bowser, but this time around with planning a wedding, which I think is actually a cool choice in Fury, instead of like just able to actually kidnapping Princess Peach every single time with no substance. But apart from that, though, I would say the story is actually way more involved than the forms of how it does it from before, but that's besides the point. And well, as I said before, the visuals look absolutely gorgeous to able to look at, especially this is on the new hardware on the Nintendo Switch, which is really cool. and also the music, it is so phenomenal. Especially because I mentioned this before about the Jump Up Superstar vocal theme, which is performed by Kate Higgins, she's also voice of Tails back in Sonic Colors, Sonic Free Riders, as well as Sonic Generations and all that stuff, which I think is actually really cool because either way, you know, you get the idea. Controls wise, it is phenomenal and it's also flawless at the same time, because either way, I just simply love to able to perform some certain stuff, most notably with speedrun tricks and all that stuff. And the final thing is that the gameplay is magnificent, especially because it's actually bringing back the gameplay aspect from Super Mario 64 that I all know and love, especially with Super Mario Sunshine as well, because they actually bring back the actual sandbox gameplay and style and all that stuff. And I think I should definitely recommend you get this game super instantly, because even then, well, at the moment right now, this game is ranked second place when it comes to forms of the best-selling games on this hardware at the moment. Because for number one is obviously Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because of everyone loves Mario Kart so much. And this is the actual award. If you manage to beat Bowser as a rematch final boss, you get yourselves a magnificent photo, as you can see right there, including Luigi in the background right there. But either way though, that's a pretty cool image right there. So, in this case, we are basically done with the actual main game of Super Mario Odyssey. So even then, join me until Thursday on Super Mario Odyssey Let's Play. Is the fact that it's pretty obvious what's gonna come up. Next up is, of course, the forms of Luigi's Blue World we can able to actually play around with. However, though, I think we might actually do this in some sort of like a same order as the main game, though. So even then, we'll able to start things off with, of course, Mushroom Kingdom to start off. So see you guys then. Later, fellas.